The source of our learning should be a panacea. We're gonna start Yidalid Amud Beis, 3 lines from the top. The Makter, Sakteris, and Metivas and Eris. We're talking about the Kohen Gadol. Every day of the 7 days, he does the full service, and the rest of the year he could do if he wants to. He could do it. He doesn't have to. So we're going to zoom in to the order of what it said the Kohen Gadol does. It says he sprinkles the blood, he offers up the ketores, he smokes makters, he smokes the ketores, he puts it on the altar, and then he cleans out the menorah. So let's see this. The Gemara quotes the Mishnah, Makter Ketores Meitiveseneres, Alma Ketores Breishav Adeneres. Apparently, in the order in the morning, the ketores comes before the cleaning out of the candles. Very minute, but there's a contradiction to this. The contradiction is from a Mishnah in Tamid. It says, Misha Zacha B'dishin Mizbeach HaPnimi. There's someone that wins. They did lotteries to see who would get the schus to do each of the avodas. So if someone had the schus to do the dishon, the removing of the ashes of the inner altar, the golden altar. Misha Zacha B'Menorah. Who had the schus to clean out the menorah? Misha Zacha B'Kteres. And who had the one to do the Kteres? Now, you see the order here is exactly the opposite. First is the menorah, and then there's doing the Kteres. Ravuna Mantana Tamid. Ravuna says, what do you do when there's a contradiction? We say that it's a different opinion. Mantana Tamid, who's the author of the Masechtas Tamid? Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. I don't remember this from Masechtas Tamid that we said that. From Masechtas Tamid we said Mantana Tamid, Reb Elazar ben Yaakov or something. We didn't say this over there. Over here the Gemara says it's Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. We'll see what his logic is on the next page. Okay. So if we have a different opinion, that can resolve our question. We're discussing over here the ketores versus the menorah in the morning. What was done first? So Masechtas Yoma, Perek Aleph, it says that the ketores was done first and then the menorah. And in Tamid it says that the menorah was first and then the ketores. So we answer it that it's a different opinion. But 1 second, there's a problem. If you go back to Tamid, it says the Tran, Bala Lekan Mizrachis Tzvainas, Nice in Mizrachis Tzvaina. Maravis Draimas, Nice in Marava Draima. But Tanyala, Reb Shimon Hashemitz, Mishana Betamid, Mizrachis Tzvainas, Nice in Mizrachis Tzvaina, Maravis Travis, Nice in Marava, Vachkach, Nice in Draima. It says like this. On the Mizbeach, let's say this is the Mizbeach, all right? There's a ramp, and then there's the actual altar. There's actually the altar over here. So what happens is he would sprinkle the blood of the carbon tamid on 2 corners, catty corner, the northeast and the southwest. Northeast and southwest. The Gemara is going to explain because he needed the yisoid, which was the foundation of the mizbech, which stopped on this side. This corner was empty from that foundation. So we needed the northeast and the southwest. It was shtei matana shein arba, 2 sprinklings of blood, which turns out to actually hitting 4 sides, because when they sprinkled it on a corner, it went to both sides here. This is the east. Let's say this is the east, this is the west, and this is the south, and this is the north. This is the northeast corner. So it went to the east and to the north, and this went to the west and to the south. So shtei matana shein arba. That's what the Mishnah says. That means Nice Mizracha Tzvaina and Marava Draima. What's wrong? And the Brisa says that Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah has a different opinion than what it says over there. His opinion was that, when you get to the northeast, you put 1 sprinkling, which is considered like 2 because it goes to the east side and it goes to the north side. However, when you get to the southwest, then you actually do two applications of blood. You do first on the west, and then you do on the south. The Gemara is gonna need to explain that. Why do you switch? So basically, you're doing three applications. So whatever the case is, that doesn't fit with the Mishnah and Tamid. And how did we resolve a contradiction between Masechta Yoma and Masechta Tamid? We said Masechta Tamid was Reb Shimon Shemitzvah. Well, when we look at Masechta Tamid, we find that Reb Shimon Shemitzvah doesn't agree with that in a different detail. Elam Rabbi Yechanan, Mantana say the Yoma Reb Shimon Shemitzvah. Rabbi Yechanan says no. Okay, so obviously Reb Shimon Shemitzvah can't be the author of Tamid, and that fits with actually what we learned in Tamid. Yeah, I forget where I saw that comment. There was a comment somewhere that it wasn't. I think the whole comment was Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. I think that's what we learned. Who was the one, if anyone remembers, who was the one that said, my uncle was a Levi and his clothing was burnt? Remember that said they burnt the Levi's clothing if he fell asleep? No, the Levium were doing most of the watching. There were three places of most of it, Levium. And he said, yeah, my uncle was a Levi and they burnt his clothing. And then I think the Gemara says that he was the author of the whole Masechta. Okay, whatever the case is, it wasn't Reb Shimon Shemitzvah. And now what we're saying is that the author of Masechtas Yoma is Reb Shimon Shemitzvah. And he would say that the Ketores is performed before the Menorah is performed. Okay. Now the Gemara gets a little bit more technical, because is it Menorah first and then Ketores, or Ketores first and then Menorah? Well, that was a contradiction, Yoma and Tamid. Now we're going to take a look, and it's going to turn out that in Masechtas Yoma itself, there is another view which goes exactly like how it's written in Tamid. Rami Seder Yoma, Seder Yoma. Why don't we ask a contradiction from the Mishnayos in Masechtas Yoma? The other Mishnayos in Perek Beis, the Tanan, in the second chapter it says, Piyas Hasheni. The Piyas is the lottery that they would do, where they would stand in like a circle and they would stick out their fingers and count, and they would decide based on eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who would get to do the service. So they had several of these lotteries. The second one was for Mi Sheichet, who's going to shech the carbon tamid, Mi Zoyrek, who's going to sprinkle the blood, Mi Medashin Mizbeach Apnimi, who's going to take the ashes off the inner altar, Mi Medashin Esa Menorah, who's going to clean out the burnt wicks of the menorah, Mi Mala Evarim Lekevish, and who's going to bring the limbs up to the ramp. Okay, so far it doesn't tell us about the Ketores. However, Piyas Ashlishi, the Mishnah continues, the third lottery was Chadashim Labekarim Boive Fisu. People that never did the Ketores are allowed to come and do the Ketores. Ketores was only done once by each individual. You weren't allowed to do it a second time. It says that whoever did the Ketores would get wealthy, so they wanted to share the wealth. So if you got it once, they didn't want them to become fabulous about it. No. So they wanted it to equal opportunity. So you would do it once. Whoever didn't do it before would get this opportunity to do it. Whatever the case is, it turns out that it's after the menorah. So if you look back, we have the Mishnah Bayas says first the Ketores and then the menorah. We have a Mishnah in Perek Beis that says first the menorah and then the Ketores. So this is a bit of a problem. When we had a contradiction to Masechtas Tamid, so we resolved it. We said, yeah, the author of Tamid is different than the author of Yoma, whoever the author is. But now we have two Mishnayos in Yoma itself. This is getting more complex. So Amar Abaya comes along to answer the question. He says, Loi kasha, it's not a problem. Kan batavash, they neres, kan batavash, chamish neres. They stopped in middle, so it was like a sandwich. First he came in and he cleaned out 5 of the candles, and he left 2 burning because there were 7 candles. Then he went and he did the ketores. Then he came back and he cleaned out the other 2 candles. Oh, so now what's the Mishnah in Parak Aleph of Yoma? It says that first you do the ketores and then you do the candles. That's talking about the ketores, and then the last 2 candles. The Mishnah in Parak Beis that says that you do first the candles and then you do the ketores. It's talking about the 5 candles and then you do the ketores. The Gemara later on is going to tell us why it needed to be broken up. And it's between Baflam and Gimel. Let's see what it says. We're supposed to make a bigger commotion. Yeah, there was a reason why they needed to break it up. Okay. Okay, so far so good. We have a good answer. And it's Abaya is telling us that what was done in between the cleaning out of the menorah. There were 5 candles and then 2 candles. What was done in between is the ketores. Okay. Abaya misaders. Oh, 1 second, I skipped the line. Lemeimer the ketores mafsiklu. You're trying to say that the ketores went in between the cleaning out of the menorah, 5 and 2, with the ketores in the center, in the middle of that. There's a problem. Abaya is the one that told us the order of everything that's done. Remember this from the ketores in the morning, from the karbanos. It says, I'm saying it by not what's written here. It says, "Hatavas chamish neiros kidem sadam atamet, v'dam atamet kidemes la'hatavas shtei neiros, hatavas shtei neiros kidemes hatavas shtei neiros is kidemes ketores." We have a little bit of a problem because Abaya says that the ketores was done after both. What was done in between? Yeah, it was split up, but it wasn't. The 5 candles and the 2 candles was divided by the dama tamid. That's what was done in between. Yeah, it was divided, but it wasn't the ketores in between. The ketores was actually done after the end of the menorah. So how could Abaya come along and tell me that? How do we resolve the Mishnah, the 2 Mishnayos in Masechtas Yoma, by telling me that it's the 5 candles are cleaned, then the ketores is brought, and then the 2 candles. When Abaya Mishmei the Gemara says that the ketores itself was done after that whole thing, after all 7. So Amri like Kasha. This is not a question. Abaya Misadar Amrachim Mishmei the Gemara Vali B'da Bashal. He says it according to Abishal. Why does he do Abishal? I don't know. He do like the Rabbanan. Why does he do Abishal? That's a good question. It's strange. He could have done the same thing like the accepted opinion. Okay. We have to find out. Whatever the case is that according to the Rabban, there's a Machlekes Abishal in the Rabbanan, as we'll see. What was dividing up the 2 sections of the cleaning out of the menorah? There's 5 candles and 2 candles. What was in between there? Abishal says what was in between there was a dama tamid, and the Rabbanan say what was in between there was the ketores. So according to the Rabbanan, we have a good teretz for the contradiction in Masechtas Yoma. The Tanya was started in a brisa. Lo yetiv esaneus v'achakach yakter. Don't do all the candles. Don't clean out all the candles. So it's sort of like setting up all the candles. And then burn the ketores. Ella yakter v'achakach yetiv. Rather, what you do is you burn the ketores in the middle. Okay, that's the first opinion. That's the Rabbanan's opinion. You do it in the middle, and then you finish off. Yeah, I'm adding in some words over here to make it fit with the opinion of the Rabbanan. Abishal says, Meitiv, you do everything. You clean out all of the menorah candles, and then you do the ketores. Now, you don't do it all in one shot, Abishal is saying, but he's saying that relative to the ketores, all of them are done. How was it done? Actually, was the Damatamid was done in the middle. After 5, you did the Damatamid, then you came back to do the next 2, and then you did the ketores afterwards. That's Abishal. My time with Abishal, what's the reason for Abishal? By the way, there's this Rishima. It's called Rishima Seminaira. The Rebbe wrote a letter to someone, and it got published. It was in his notebooks that they found after he passed away in the Rishimas. They found these notebooks. One of them is called Rishima Seminaira. It's a long letter, and in there it discusses exactly this concept, how it was done. The 5 and then the 2. There's one other point that we don't discuss here. We discussed in Menachos is if the menorah was facing, if all 7 candles were going from north to south, or if they're going from east to west. In other words, when they had the western light, near Maravi, right? There was a western light. Which one was that? Was that the center one, or was that the one that was next to the front, depending on which way the menorah was facing? And then the Rebbe finishes up according to Chassidus how this plays out. The machlokes is based on if we hold Torah is more important or Maisa is more important. That machlokes. Yeah. Okay. It's a big job to learn it though. It's very complex. Like a month. If you have a month. So okay, so my time with Abishal. What's the reason for Abishal? What was Abishal's opinion again? He says first you clean out the 5 candles, then you sprinkle the blood of the tamid, then you do the second 2 candles, and then you do the ketar. The ksiv, ba'bayker beitives eneris, v'hada yaktirena. That's the pasuk. In the morning when you clean out the candles, yaktirena, you should offer it up. What does it say? First you clean out the candles, and then you offer up the ketaris. Yaktirena is referring to the ketaris. But Rabbanan, what do the Rabbanan do? It sounds like he has a pasuk that says that the ketaris is after all the candles. No, the Rabbanan say, Maika Amar Rachmana, what is the Eberster saying? No. While you're doing the candles, you offer it up. That means in the center. That's the Rabbanan's opinion, different than Abishal. If you don't say like the way Abishal is saying, I'm sorry, if you don't say the way the Rabbanan are saying, that you do it in the center, we're going to have a problem with the afternoon. There's a problem with the afternoon. So what we want to do is we want to say that you don't do the ketoros after the candles. That's what the Rabbanan are saying. You do it in the middle. You don't do it afterwards.
Can I ask a late question? Yeah. I thought when we learned about the lottery the first time, you said there's a winner and everybody else takes the winner.
Yeah, so in the second piece, no, there's 4 lotteries that were done. Yeah, there's 4 lotteries. But in one of the lotteries, they did a bunch of lotteries. There were like 13 different activities of it. And the winner, the first one would get the first activity, and then it would go runner up. Right? Okay. If we don't say this, that it was done in the center, so Beinar Bayim the Ksiv, by the afternoon it says Abalei Sarin Esaneres Beinar Bayim Yaktirena. Then when Aaron offers it up in the afternoon, he offers up the Kteres Hachinami. Do you want to say that here also? That's so too. The Bereisha Malik Neres Vad the Maktik Kteres Beinar Bayim. That first he offers up. First he cleans out the candles, and then he does the Kteres. That's according to Abishal. That's what you would have to say. There's a little bit of a problem. We didn't get to the problem yet, but he's saying it like a question. Is that really what he wants to say? Well, maybe so. Maybe you do all the candles and then you do the ketaris in the afternoon. And we're talking about that you're going to leave the candles to burn all night. and then you put the Ketores in afterwards to smoke during the night. But Tanya, we have a brisa that says, okay, very nice. Me'erev Biker, it says from evening till morning. That's talking about the candles. What does it do? What would you do? It says, you have to put in enough oil so that it should burn from evening until morning. Now, how much oil was that? Well, it depends what season. In the winter, the nights are longer than in the summer, right? And we didn't go from 6 to 6 or something. It went from nightfall to daybreak. So what they did was like this. They estimated that it should be a chatzi lug, a half a lug. I don't know how much a lug is. A lug is 6 eggs or something, right? And there's 4 lug in a cup. There's a half a lug, so it's about 3 eggs. That's we spoke about per candle, half a lug per candle. So, and that's would burn for the evening. We don't know how big the wicks are, so it would be difficult for us to measure this. It's possible. Some commentators say that what they would do is they would make the wicks thicker to make a larger flame during the summer, and they would make it smaller, thinner during the winter, so it would be a thinner flame, so it would burn less. A thinner flame in the summer, and the thicker flame. A thinner flame in the winter, so that it should, because it had to last for like 12 hours in the winter, 13 hours, the whole night. A thinner wick, and in summer they had a thicker wick because in summer the night was very short, 10 hours or 8 hours or something. Okay, so everyone wants to know the jug that they found burn more. It's like a dimmer. The thicker wick would burn for less time. If you have the same amount of fuel, if you use a thicker wick, it would go out earlier.
Oh,
it'd be more. Yeah, and the oil was the same. Another pshat over here, Me'erev Biker, besides for the amount of oil that was put in, but this gives you a little bit of information about the jug. It wants to know the jug that they found on Hanukkah. How big was it? Well, we know how big it was. It was enough for one night. That's 7 times half a lug, right? 3.5 lug. So, the only thing that was done from evening till morning is this. In other words, this is the last service that's done in the temple. You hear? The last service in the temple is what? Is the menorah, not the ketores. So you wanted to say that maybe you could do the ketores afterwards. Abba Shaul holds. Abba Shaul says, the Rabbanan say no. Me'erev Biker, the menorah is the last service that's done at night. So what's the Eibishter saying? In the middle of the hadlaka, that's when you do the ketores. But the end of the hadlaka, you have to do the end of the hadlaka is just the menorah. You don't do anything after that inside the sanctuary. If that's the case, then in the morning as well, that in the middle of the hatava, in the cleaning out of the menorah, they would do the ketores.
what was the purpose of the ketores?
There's different opinions about the purpose of the ketores. The Rambam in the Marna says that basically there's smell like burning meat. The ketores made the smell. They did half in the morning, half in the night, because they were burning things at night as well. The ketores was half in the morning, half in the afternoon. So, but according to Chassidus, that's what the Rambam writes in the Marna. According to Chassidus, the ketores was the highest avoid. It wasn't something to get rid of some other bad smell. There's like opposite opinions. I think the Rebbe somehow connects the two, that it's okay. But Abba Shaul would say to you, Shani Hasam the in the afternoon it's different. In the afternoon, you don't do the ketores afterwards. It says, Yarech Oisoi Aranovanov Mi'erev Ad Boker. The afternoon, the menorah did not have the Ketores in the middle. But in the morning, in the afternoon, the menorah did not have the Ketores afterwards. It had it in the middle. But in the morning, it had it afterwards. Okay. What's going on over here? We have a contradiction between two Mishnayos and Masechtas Yoma. What was first, the Ketores or the menorah? And Abaye resolves it by saying that first you did the menorah, then you did the Ketores, and then you finished the menorah. And that's why one Mishnah was talking about where, actually the first Mishnah was talking about the second part, where you did the Ketores first, and then you did the menorah. And then the second parak was talking about the first part, where you did the 5 candles, and then you did the Ketores, right? It was sandwiched in between, so that's how you resolve it. That was a bias there. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa is a student of Abaye. He says, like Kash, he has a different teretz. Ha Rabbanan ha B'Shal. Different teretz. The first parak of Yoma is talking about Makter Ketores and Meitiv Esaneres. Why? Why do you do the Ketores first? Because we're talking about, this is in the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan say that in the middle of doing the menorah, you do the Ketores. So here you do in the middle of the menorah, you do the Ketores. So it says Ketores and then the menorah, because you have to finish it afterwards, the second part of the sandwich. Abishal, he's the second parak of Yoma. And over there, it's talking about where first you do the menorah and then afterwards you do the Ketores. He holds that that's how you always do it. So there's no sandwich over there. All of the menorah was done, and then afterwards you did the Ketores. Now, the truth is the menorah was broken up, but not by the Ketores. Okay. The Mayukim Tilamas Nisan Dahacha Kerabanan, what are you saying there? Our chapter is referring to the opinion of the Rabbanan. Pius, the second parak that talks about the lottery that was done, Ka'abashal is referring to Ka'abashal. Seifa. Let's go to the third chapter of Yoma, if this wasn't complex. Yeah. So now we're going to throw in one more chapter of Yoma in Parak Gimel. It says like this: talking about the service on Yom Kippur. They bring the Kayin Gadol, the carbon tamid, kartsu. He does the minimal amount of shchita. Why does he do the minimal amount of shchita? Because he has to also catch the blood. So someone actually finishes off the shchita for him. He does exactly just to make it kosher, and then he catches the blood. He drops it in the middle, hands it over for someone to finish, and then he catches the blood. Someone else finishes the shchita. Nichnas lahakter akteres. He goes in to offer the ketores. And to clean out the candles. Now, that's impossible according to Abishal. According to Abishal, the ketores was always after the candles. So we said the first chapter of Yoma is the Rabbanan. The second chapter is Abishal. The third chapter is going to have to go back to being the Rabbanan. Talking about sandwich. Abishal gets sandwiched in here. Okay. Also the Rabbanan. That follows the Rabbanan. Reisha v'Sefer Rabbanan Mitzias Abishal. The beginning and the first chapter of Yoma is the Rabbanan. The third chapter of Yoma is the Rabbanan. And the second chapter of Yoma is Abishal. Amalach Rav Papa in. Rav Papa says, yeah, that was Rav Papa's teretz. Rav Papa didn't mind saying that it's different opinions. It says Reisha v'Sefer Rabbanan Mitzias Abishal. That's how it is. Gemara says, Bishlaima Abaye layamakir of Papa. We understand. Abaye had a different teretz. Abaye's teretz was, look, I have two parts to the offering to the menorah. I have the 5 candles and I have the 2 candles, and in the center and in between the 5 and the 2 was the ketores. So all I have to do is I can say that when we say the ketores was first, we're talking about first to the second candles, and we say that the menorah was first, we're talking about the 5 candles that were before the ketores. So Abaye doesn't say like Rav Papa because Reisha v'Sefer Rabbanan Mitzias Abishal like Mukim. He doesn't want to say that the Mishnayos here are so inconsistent with who's the author of them. Ela Rav Papa my time ala Yamar ka Abaye. Why doesn't Rav Papa say like Abaye? It seems like he has a better teretz. Abaye just says that look, the menorah was divided in half. And anytime you have a contradiction, which one was first? You say you're talking about the other part. Amalach, so Rav Papa would say, Tana Beresha Atavish Neiris, Vahadar Atavish Chamish Neiris. The order is wrong. What's going on in the first chapter? The first chapter of Yoma, our Mishnah says that first you do the ketores and then you do the candles. Now, how is that possible? That's because you're talking about the two last candles that were done. But that was done after the 5 candles. And you go to the second chapter, you talk about what was done before. The whole order is messed up. It can't be. But Abaya says, no. Abaya says, don't worry about chapter 1. Chapter 1 is just telling you in general. It's telling you that the Kohen Gadol is going to do the service today. And this is what he's going to do. It's not getting into the order of how he's going to do it. It's making this contrast, of does the Kohen Gadol do the service, or can anyone do the service? So it says the Kohen Gadol does this, that, and the other thing. It's not telling you the order specifically of what's supposed to do. The Sidra, the order, that starts in chapter 2. Or in chapter 2, it starts to say that first the candles, and then the ketores, and then in chapter 3, it says the ketores, and then the candles. So that fits with the correct order. Okay, Gufa. We mentioned something in passing, and that was a machlekes regarding the sprinkling of the blood on the altar of the carbon tamid. On the altar, the carbon tamid, the blood was sprinkled on the altar. And we said that a regular oila, a burnt offering, has 2 sprinklings of blood. It's called shtayim shein arba. Two catty corner. Put it on catty corner on the mizbeach, and that because it's 2, which equals 4. Because when you sprinkle it on one corner, it goes to both sides, and on the other corner, it goes to both sides. So you end up getting 4 sides. I don't know. I think it would stay there. It looked like it was well used. Yeah, probably. Yeah, and when I was in 4th grade, I was in Yeshiva Spring Valley. I had a teacher, Rabbi Breslauer was his name. So he had a, you know that name? That's in Muncie. Rabbi Breslauer. So he had a shul called, it was a Yekish shul, it was called Beis Tefillah or something. You remember Muncie? Were you in Muncie? You remember there was a cemetery from the Civil War? Anyway, across the street was like this little cul-de-sac, like a shul. It was a Yekish shul. Anyway, so he had us memorize the order of every carbon. Every carbon we had to do. What was the first thing? Yishrita and Halacha, and how each one we had to memorize the order. We had in our notebook. Anyway, okay. Afterwards, it all becomes a blur. But the carbon oila was shtayim shehin arba. You sprinkled 2 sprinklings, which on the catty corner, which equaled 4, and the carbon chatas was arba matanes al arba karanas. Was 4 applications on the 4 corners of the mizbeach, the 4 sides of 4 corners of the mizbeach. Okay, so we learned before, bola lekern mizrachis tzvainis. When you come to the northeast corner on the mizbeach, noisin mizrachis tzvainis. You put it on the northeast corner. Maravis Droimus, when you come to the southwest corner, Lysin Maravis Droimus, you put it on the southwest. Okay. Betani Allah was taught on this. Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah Mishana B'Tamid. Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah says that's by a regular Oila. But by the carbon Tamid, there was a slight difference. Correct. When you come to the northeast, you put on the northeast. Maravis Dreamus, when you come to the southwest, he's walking around the mizbeach. So when he gets to that other corner, all the way on the other side, so Noisin Marava, first he puts on the west, Vachakaf Noisin Dream, and then he puts it on the south. So it ends up with 3 applications. My time with the Reb Shimon Hashemitza, where's this coming from? Why do you get this? Where does he get this? Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of one of the students of Rabbi Yana, Yomar Kra, it says in the pasuk, the series in the sky, right? Everyone shouts that out. Yeah. Apparently, we're not supposed to assist the Balkara, but everyone likes the things that we know. Yasev in the sky. So there was a goat that was brought for a chatas, in addition to the Eilas HaTamid. However, the Gemara learns from that the chatas, the laws of the chatas were imposed onto the Eilas HaTamid. That means that I did something here in the Eilas HaTamid similar to a chatas. Eilahi v'amarachmara avid b'maisa chatas. It's really a carbon oila, but I have to adjust something to do it like a chatas. This is Reb Shimon Hashemitza, why he's changing the application of the blood. HaKetzad, how do you do this? Well, listen, achas shishtayim. You put one application, which is 2. That means because it's on a corner. K'maisa oila, that's the way a burnt offering is offered. Shtayim, shein shtayim, k'maisa chatas. But you also have to do 2 applications, which are 2 applications, which that's the on the sides of the west and the south, which that's the way a chatas is done. Why don't you actually do both if you have to do that? Do 2 and 2 and then do another 4. It says, we don't find anywhere where you have to do a double application because the kapara was already given you. What the kapara means? The atonement was already received. You get an atonement and then you do another atonement. You pay your taxes twice. You're done. You did the first. Well, do you have anything else? You're saying we don't find that you ever have to do this. You don't find anywhere they have to do what you're doing anyway. You're doing half of the application is oila, half is a chatas. But 1 second, the Torah compares it. So we'll say that the Torah compares it. You have to do both. It says no. Over there, we're just dividing up the one application. Okay. Maybe we should be particular. The oila, the blood is put underneath. There's a hemisphere, not a hemisphere, the equator that goes across. There's a line that goes across the mizbeach and tells what's the chut hasik, right? Goes under. Which blood goes underneath? Certain bloods go underneath. Certain bloods go above. Remember, we have this way of remembering that the oilas ha'oiv is on top, and everything else was the opposite. So oilas behema was beneath, and then a chatas ha'oiv was beneath, and a chatas behema was on top. Oilas ha'oiv was the only one that you needed to remember, and then you just remember everything else is the opposite. Oilas ha'oiv because it flies up. I think this is Rabbi Breslauer that taught this to me. So the opposite of an oilas ha'oif is oilas behema. So that's beneath. The opposite of an oilas ha'oif is a chatas ha'oif. So that's beneath. The opposite of a chatas ha'oif is a chatas behema. That's on top. Got it. Okay. So yeah.
Is there a discussion about why some zrikas are above the line and some below the line?
I never learned, but if I would look it up, I would look in Rav Hirsch, Rav Shamshon Hirsch. He would give a like a psychological, an ethical reason of what the mizbeach, what the divider represents. And that's his style. I never looked it up, but that would be where I would look.
Mm-hmm. Also, isn't there an issue if you start on the northeast corner and then you do the southwest corner? You have to walk all the way around the ramp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can only go to the right.
Yeah, but he's walking up. Actually, the Gemara is going to say on the next page. He walks up to the right. He goes to the right, and that's what takes him around. Because the west is to his left, so he goes to the east to the right. Yeah, we daven. It's confusing to us because we daven to the east, but the truth is that Kodesh HaKadoshim was the west side of
Right, of the Mizbeach.
Yeah, of the Mizbeach. So he would walk up to the east, to the right, and then walk around, and then make it to the west, southwest. That would be his end.
He's got to go all the way around the ramp. It's a longer walk.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So the Gemara is asking, why don't we divide this up? That we should do the chatas aspect of this above the line, and the oila aspect, because it's oilas behema here, right? Should be below the line. So we don't find anywhere where you do half above and half below the red line. It says v'loy, you don't find that. But we have a Mishnah. It sounds like a misquote. It says, but when the Kohen Gadol would sprinkle on the pareiches, he did one above, one above and 7 below. It says, no, that's kematzlif. That's the way his finger was positioned. He did 1 like this and 7 downward. But that's not telling you where it went on the, it's almost like a misquote. Yeah, achas v'achas, achas v'shtayim. 1 and then 1 and 7 and then the 7. My kematzlif. What does kematzlif mean? It means like a whip. Okay. Below, but you don't find that you do above and below. But Tanan, that he sprinkled it on the purity of the altar 7 times. Now, what's the purity of the altar? My lava palga the mizbeach. It must be mid altar. That means mid mizbeach, which would mean that it's right in the center, which means some of it was above, some of it was below. If it's right in the middle. Kedam riinshi tar tira hu palga the aima. Tar tira, the purity is the midday where it's so bright. Amar Rabba Barshila says light. That's not what it means. Agufa de mizbech. It's talking about the top, the roof of the altar. That's where it was sprinkled. The ksiv ketzem hashemayim l'tayar. We quote another verse that says, like the sky in purity. So it means it's on the top. Purity. We thought the word purity meant mid, like midday, and it turns out that it means the top of the altar. Okay. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with Reb Shimon and Mitzvah. He says first you do a application of blood like an oila, and then you do like a chatas. Maybe you should do first 2 applications like the chatas, and then the last one should be an oila. It says given the oila, he kadma b'reish well. It is a carbon oila, so you do the oila first. Maishna diav mizrachis tzvainis maravis dreimis. Nesa dreimis mizrachis. Granted, you have to do catty corner because you want to get all 4 sides. So, but why don't you do the southeast and then the northwest? There goes the airline. But okay, Amri, they said oila tuna yisaid. The oila needs to have the foundation. If you look at the map of the Mizbeach, at the blueprint of the Mizbeach, you'll see that there was a base of the Mizbeach that only went on those corners. It stopped. There was one corner that the base was missing. The current Dremis Mizrachas layavli yisaid, so that wasn't an option. Maishna diav Breishim Mizrachas Tzvainis Vada Maravis Dremis Neisa Breishim Maravis Dremis Vada Mizrachas Tzvainis. You see, Reb Naftali. Why do you have to do the northeast first and then the southwest? Do the southwest first and then the northeast. So the Gemara says, "Kivan damer markol pina shata pina layol derichimin the mizrach bereisha bahu paga." Because whenever you have an option of where to turn, you turn right. Yeah, I don't know if you should try this with your GPS. You could get very lost like this. You end up in the same place again.
Also, I just realized that where they check the amyl and they're coming with the blood, the first corner they would get to is the northeast.
Well,
right? From where the shechting occurred.
Yeah, I hear. I understood though. I guess because they're coming from the back. I guess so. I guess so. Okay, the limbs were definitely walked around and put on the ramp. Did he walk directly there? I'm not sure. It could be you're right. Could be he walked directly there because that would be very close to the Beis Hamikdash where they started. Mimai de ba'ilahu, the kamar Rahman Avid by my sechatas, Dilma Bechatasu to kamar Rahman Avid by my sale. We have in the pasuk, it's telling me that I have a korban that it says the series echad lachatas lashem al oila satamed yaseveniska, that we're going to impose a chatas on an oila. Maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's the oila that's being imposed on the chatas. It says leisal kedaita. The ksiv al oila satamed yaseveniska. My kamar Rahmana midi the chatas shadi oila. What it's saying is that a matter of a chatas is being imposed over an oila, and it's really an oila, and it just has one halacha that's treated as a chatas. Okay, let's leave it here. Shekayach everyone. Pesach Sheni.
All right, so, yeah.
Thank you.